Dr. Ragesh, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Abraham. How are you?
Fine, fine.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Leandy. How are you?
Morning, Dr. Mar. I'm well, and you?
Yeah, all good. Fine here. Nice to see you again.
It is, yes. Thank you.
Dr. Glady, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Ragesh. Welcome you for this conference.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Both guests will join. We can start by 10:30.
Morning, Dr. George.
Morning, good morning, good morning, Secretary Sir.
Yes,
Very good morning.
we are fine.
So both the resource persons have joined.
Oh, very good, very so early.
Principal sir, I think Dr. Ravindran sir has joined.
Both, I think, no. Ravindran Sir, good morning.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay, okay.
Ravindran sir, morning, sir. Welcome, you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Sir, good morning, Ravindran sir.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning.
What about our guest of honor? Joined or not? Please, Dr. Glady, please check whether she joined or not.
Sir, Professor Archana has to join, sir. We're waiting for her.
Face தெரியுதா? Ready.
Sir, sir.
தெரியுதா?
தெரியுது, sir.
வேற ஒண்ணும் தெரியல இல்ல?
ஆடியோ மட்டும் கொஞ்சம் அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ண முடியும்னா பண்ணுங்க சார். கொஞ்சம் ரொம்ப மைல்டா கேக்குது.
Daddy, can I be audible? Benjamin here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
For audible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gladys, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
She has joined, I think.
Yes,
Professor, yes, okay.
Is it audible?
thanks God and congratulations to all of you.
Yeah, good morning, ma'am.
Very good morning.
Hello.
Really hopeless for a time.
No
But
issue, no
now-
issue.
Thank you
Means,
so much. Thank you so
Just
much.
10:28. That's all.
Good morning, Professor Archana. We welcome you.
Thank you so much.
Mrs. Mabulda, from technical side, everything okay?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, we can start.
Thank you. Principal sir, shall we start?
Yes, yes.
We start, sir?
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you. A pleasant morning to one and all gathered here. On behalf of the management, principal, staff, students, and as a part of centenary year celebration of YMCA College of Physical Education, I extend a warm welcome for the International Conference on Strategic Preparedness and Response Plan for Physical Education Professionals, SPARP 2021. As it is written in the Bible in Matthew 6:33, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. To seek the presence of God, may I request Dr. Pratham to lead us in prayer.
Let's pray. Our loving Heavenly Father, thank you for all the blessing that you have bestowed upon us. Thank you, Lord, for your grace and guidance for conducting this international conference on strategic preparedness and response plan for physical education professionals. Lord, let this conference to be a useful one and beneficial to the physical education fraternity, particularly in their career and professional development. Lord, we submit the entire resource person into your mighty hand. Lord, there should not be any technological disturbance until we complete this conference. We commit the organizing secretaries, the leaders of this college, and people who are directly or indirectly involved in organizing this conference. Lord, bless them. We ask everything in the matchless name of Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Pratham. Good again. Today we have gathered here for the international conference on strategic preparedness and response plan for physical education professionals organized by YMCA College. I am extremely honored and feel privileged to have given the opportunity to welcome you on this special event. It's my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to Chief Guest, Professor G. Ravindran, Principal, College of Physical Education. Sir is known for his able administration and efficient teaching and research. Your presence makes us very happy, sir. A hearty welcome to our guest of honor, Professor Archana Chahal, who is a lifestyle and motivational speaker. Madam, we delightfully welcome you for this conference. We extend a warm welcome to our resource person, Dr. Leandi Wood and Dr. Nagesh Thoman. We delightfully welcome you for this conference. We extend a warm welcome to our correspondent and secretary, Mr. Benjamin Franklin, for this conference. Your presence is an absolute delight for us, sir. We graciously extend our welcome to our principal, Dr. George Abraham, for this conference. Your trust on teachers is our asset. We express our deepest gratitude for supporting us in making this day, sir. Welcome you, sir. I also extend my sincere welcome to all the physical educationists, researchers, fitness trainers, clinicians, students, parents, and well-wishers, and all the faculty members of this institution for this conference. Hope the time you invest on this conference will yield you intellectual richness in the near future. Once again, I welcome you all for this conference. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's a great privilege and honor to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Professor Ravindran, Principal Co-Leader College of Physical Education, Karaikudi. He started his physical education instructor in Mumbai and physical director, Modern School of Mumbai, and assistant physical training instructor in American College, hockey coach, Tirunelveli Sports Hostel. And after that, 1983, he joined as a lecturer in Annamalai University. As 9 years he served as the lecturer, and 8 years he served as a reader, and 13 years he served as a professor, and he elevated as a head and professor of physical education department, Annamalai University. Just now, by the introduction, the welcome address by Glady Kirubagar, he noted that the Professor Ravindran sir is all-rounder. He is not only a master in practicals, he is a master in theory also. He is a very good knowledge in statistics. I like to compare whenever we talk to our Professor Kirubagaran, the former professor of YMCA College. He always compare, he always talk about Ravindran and performance in the hockey and statistics in the field of research. And for that, he got an award for Best Researcher Award in 2010 at Annamalai University, and Best Teacher Award 2018 at Co-Leader College. And he got a recipient Best Research Guide and Cash Award for having 5 PhD in 2001 at Annamalai University. And he got a SAP Research Development. He got 31 lakhs as a principal investigator. Now, after his retirement, he joined as a principal Co-Leader College of Physical Education. in Karaikudi. And he had he produced 25 PhD, and he is one of the question setter of SLATE and NET examination in UGC as well as Tamil Nadu government. On behalf of the YMCA College of Physical Education and the Centenary Celebration Committee and the National Council members, and my personal behalf, I give a warm welcome to Professor Ravindran sir to be the chief guest and deliver the chief guest address in this conference, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Thank you all.
Sir, கொஞ்சம் வால்யூம் ரைஸ் பண்ணிக்கோங்க சார்.
Hello. Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you all. I am very much thankful to the correspondent and secretary, Mr. J. Benjamin Franklin, and Dr. George Abraham, the principal, YMCA College of Physical Education, Chennai, for having invited me as the chief guest to deliver the inaugural address for the international conference on strategic preparedness and response plan for physical education professionals. In connection with centenary celebration of YMCA College of Physical Education, Chennai, I extend my warm welcome to the guest of honor, Professor Archana, and also two eminent resource persons, Dr. Liandi, Senior Lecturer, Sports Business Management, Northwest University.
Sir, your voice is not clear. Can you use any headset? Your voice is not clear, sir. It's a very mild.
Hello, is it okay? Hello?
It's better,
Yes, sir. Yes,
better.
sir. Now it is okay, sir. Please.
So, good morning to all.
Please switch on your video also, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Now it's okay.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you all. I am very much thankful to the correspondent and secretary, Mr. J. Benjamin Franklin, and George Abraham, the principal of YMCA College of Physical Education, Chennai, for having invited me as a chief guest to deliver inaugural address for the international conference on strategic preparedness and response plan for physical education professionals in connection with centenary celebration of YMCA College of Physical Education. I extend my warm welcome to the guest of honor, Professor Archana, and also two eminent resource persons, Dr. Liandi, Senior Lecturer, Sports Business Management, Northwest University, South Africa, and Dr. Rakesh Thomas, Physical Education Department, King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, South Africa. Firstly, I express my sincere greetings to the college on its centenary after the birth of YMCA College of Physical Education in 1920. It has given a new profession, physical education in India. We should be very thankful to the founder of this great institution, Dr. C. Bugs. I am associated with the sports and physical education for the past 40 years. I knew about this great institution, and I also have a long association with this institution. We know about the contribution of Professor T.M. Joseph, Professor Chopre, and Professor Luther, former principals of IMC. They laid strong foundation for the growth and development of this institution. The OMC College of Physical Education, Chennai, produced eminent physical educationists, principals, administrators, researchers, and performers. When I was a student, I could recall that I studied the textbook of physical education authored by Dr. J.T. Thomas, former principal of OMC College of Physical Education. In this book, he narrated about the physical education class formation, general and particular lessons, indigenous activities, rhythmic activities, minor games, etc. This another book on weight training gave me a good knowledge about strength training for each sports discipline. His work on this publication talked about the OMC College of Physical Education. Then Dr. J. Manuel Raj, former principal of this college, published a book on martial arts in Tamil Nadu. His jovial method of discussion in serious matters brought a lot of fruitful decisions. From this venue, I have a good association with this faculty, the faculty of ONC College. I served in this institution as an external examiner for practical and theory, also attended academic council meetings and other meetings. I had an opportunity to see Professor J. Mitra, who was instrumental in organizing various programs under Christopher Blind Mission and developed various games for blind and physically challenged. Then Professor Jnana Asif, former principal, a versatile in volleyball, and his good command over English language impressed us very much. I had a very good friendship with Dr. Abraham, former principal of OMC College of Physical Education, who published books on soccer, skills, and play. Myself, a hockey player with a coaching diploma from NIS, I had lots of discussion on hockey with the Professor J. Krupakaran, hockey in charge at OMC College of Physical Education. I have seen his dedication towards the game of hockey and affection towards hockey playing. As I have much interest in exercise physiology, I cherish my association with Dr. Amrit Kumar Moses, who was an expert in exercise physiology at OMC College. But we have lost Professor Krupakaran and Professor Amrit Kumar Moses when they were at the peak of their contribution. It was a great loss to OMC College of Physical Education and also to our professors. Professor Esther Ranjini, a renowned athlete, former principal of OMC College of Physical Education, who was a good administrator, very strict personality, and her contributions are memorable. Professor Sriraj Siban, a good basketball player, a very good active personality, former principal of OMC College of Physical Education, whose coordination to the contribution to the college and faculty members were very appreciable. Now she is the Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu Physical Education and Sports University, Chennai. The credit goes to OMC College of Physical Education. The present few of the faculty members of OMC College of Physical Education are also a very good friend. Dr. Mr. Jolie, Dr. Johnson Brain Kumar, Dr. Glady, Dr. Jackson, Dr. Glory, Dr. Simon, Dr. Abraham, and Mr. Felix have having very close association with me. The above mentioned scholars were identified by OMC College of Physical Education and their contributions to be remembered in the centenary celebration of OMC College of Physical Education. We enjoyed the OMC campus, and I still remember the Tamil Nadu Inter-Physical Education Tournament and other tournaments organized by this college. Further, OMC College of Physical Education has produced eminent personalities, and its old students have occupied higher positions. I came to know that former governor of Tamil Nadu, Excellency P.C. Alexander, was an old student of YMCA College. Through Walter Devaram, former DTP, was an old student of this great institution. Dr. M. Robson, founder principal of Alagappa College of Physical Education, Karaikuri, was an old student of this great institution. I am proud to say that Dr. Robson was my previous teacher. I am very much proud that Dr. Jazz Abraham, present principal of YMCA College, was my colleague at Anna University. He was one of the best teachers and multi-talented personality. I am very much impressed by his sincere, dynamic, and unbiased attitude. I am sure that he will take up this college to a very great height in professional preparation, competitive sports, and research. My sincere wishes and prayers are always there for his success in all these endeavors. So with this few with great pleasure, I inaugurate the International Conference on Strategic Preparedness and Response Plan for Physical Education Professionals. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We are deeply honored for beautifully sharing all your experiences with YMCA College and the stalwarts, the words that you have spoken about the stalwarts. It shows how much you are passionate about physical education, sports, and reading of books. Thank you very much, sir. We are indeed honored for having your presence with us. And we have a very, very beautiful person with us. And I'm indeed honored to welcome you, ma'am. She is Professor Archana Chahal, the head in the Department of Physical Education, Central University, University of Allahabad. And she's a very well-known lifestyle and motivational expert in the field of physical education and sports. She has been a unique blend of hard work and talent. She has completed all her undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctorate in philosophy from Banaras Hindu University with merit. She has also secured 2 distinct awards in 2-year regular coaching diploma in basketball and sports sciences from prestigious NIS Patiala. Apart from academic excellence, she has also been honored with university's The Best Athlete Award. She, as a keynote speaker, has chaired various sessions in national and international conferences, seminars, workshops, symposiums, video talks, etc. She has represented country in 12th International Commonwealth Sports Conference held at Manchester, United Kingdom, and visited Professor Tom Reilly's research lab. John Morris, Liverpool University, United Kingdom. Various research papers of Professor Chahal has been published in assorted refereed and distinguished journals. She is actively engaged in various research work to strengthen sport and physical education. Recently, to uplift overall sports of University of Allahabad, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University appointed her as Deputy Director, Sports Board, University of Allahabad. She has worked in various capacities from time to time, such as independent observer at National Anti-Doping Agency and special member of National Council of Educational Research and Training. To spread awareness and uplift sports at local level, she has been involved in various sporting activities of schools and colleges in close vicinity. She has been actively participating in physical and sporting activities and leading by example. Recently, Professor Archana has proved that age is just a number. She has secured second place in the national level cross-country event at the age of 45 years, just to motivate masses and spread awareness. The contribution of Professor Archana Chahal is in the field of physical education and sports is exceptionally significant. Splendid, ma'am, splendid. We are very, very fortunate to have you here and we expect more from you. I request you to kindly speak few words. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. You are expressing very little things in very broad way. I don't have the words to express my feelings to you and for your organizing committee also. So with the name of God, I want to express my vibrant feelings, my wishes, especially to the respected honorable founders of the wonderful prestigious milestone of YMCA, along with all the dignitaries present here, YMCA family, alumni, even our resource persons, our chief guest, and very energetic principal of YMCA, along with organizing team, especially Dr. Glady and all other members. I want to once again give my deep concern, happiness, joys to you, all of you. This is a time to celebration. This is the year of joy. But to do so, only this? No. I think we set a mark in our mind, in our brain, to the YMCA more than it. And I assure in this very energetic manner of your principles, working style, you rethink, you redesign, you recapture the place for physical education once again through the YMCA in India, not only in India, in the world. But how? Not only your vision is enough, your actions are enough. Whenever YMCA has a very great history, YMCA has a very vast history. Whenever they explore or flourish the physical activities to the society with the aim of only one, to give the best through your body. With this aim, the physical activities come into the existence. Even, I never forget, our beloved culture of India, the cultural heritage of India. What? Sarve santu sukhina, sarve bhavantu sukhina. Sab sukhi ho. But how the all are happy? Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve santu niramaya. All become nirogi, disease free. The two things are there, which is give the insight to the physical education. And when YMCA come into the existence, it gives lots of things, not only for Calcutta YMCA, not only for the YMCA of Chennai presently, but before that is Madras. It is gives the each corner, cover the each corner, not only Indian context, even all aspect of world. So this is the time to joy, celebration, and also give the mark, give the landmark to the physical education through the YMCA. YMCA not only a point to achieve the desired goal, through the YMCA physical education achieve their goals also. I feel this. And I blindly believe the working style of YMCA, we can achieve that place of physical education, sports in Indian society with the help of different health, fitness, movement, which is already run by the YMCA time to time. Secondly, I give the only you have given me 5 minutes, but I want to take 1 minute extra also. And this is the name of your beautiful conference, and the beautiful organizing committee, and more than is your resource persons. Your resource persons give the light to this SPARP, SPARP. Why the SPARP? I sure SPARP gave the spark not only to YMCA, to the physical education also. And it is convert into the fuel to run our vehicle in a very fitness, in the manner of the fitness. And the one thing more, if you allow me, for the YMCA. YMCA is not only the Young Men Christian Association for me. It is, for me, is you may can achieve. You may can achieve in the wonderful leadership, in the wonderful presence of the all staff or fourth class staff, your all workers, your all faculty, your all students, and including all physical education fraternity of India. So my deep wishes to you all. This may create a landmark for others also. And once again, I feel so much thankful to all of you to give me this chance to share my views, to give me the chance in such a manner. So you give the expectations to me, and I also pray for myself. I must be do something for physical education. Thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you very much, Madam Professor Archana Chahal, for having here as occupying this distinguished chair of guest of honor. We are very much privileged and honored, Madam. And thank you for surprising revelation of valuable points and stating YMCA College is a source of spirit of spreading physical education throughout India. We are very much honored, and we thank you on behalf of YMCA College of Physical Education, Management, and the principal, on behalf of all the staff members. Thank you so much having come here and sharing your thoughts. Thank you so much. My name is Felix Arokiraj. I'm taking this opportunity and I'm profusely elated to an opportunity to introduce our next speaker. He hardly needs an introduction. The whole campus is vibrating and echoing his prominence now. He is now in charge of all academic achievements of YMCA College of Physical Education, a great athlete, participated in many veteran events and brought laurels to the India. Dr. George Abraham, Principal, YMCA College of Physical Education, a man of distinct vision and fountainhead of illuminating ideas, idol of knowledge and experience, great inspiration to all of us. Inviting this beautiful moment, our beloved principal to take over. Sir, please.
Thank you, Mr. Felix, for your nice words. Good morning to everyone.
Morning.
Today's respected chief guest, my guru, Professor G. Ravindran, former head of the Department of Physical Education and Dean of Education, Annamala University. Presently, he is working as a principal of Koilur Andava College of Physical Education, Karaikudi. Today's guest of honor, Professor Archana Chahal, head of the Department of Physical Education, Central University of Allahabad. Respected correspondent and secretary of YMCA College, Mr. Benjamin Franklin, administrator, Mr. Rajiv George, today's resource persons, Dr. Ragesh Tomar, faculty of King Fahd University, Saudi Arabia, Dr. Leandri Berg, senior lecturer of sports business management, Northwest University, South Africa. Other professors, physical education directors, and lecturers from various universities and colleges, research scholars, teaching and non-teaching faculty of YMCA College, organizing secretaries, Dr. Glady Kribagar, Dr. Jerome David, students and friends, very good morning to everyone. I feel so proud and honored being the present principal of this YMCA College of Physical Education. And I consider it's a great privilege to welcome you all to this great institution of sports and physical education and to this international conference on strategic preparedness and the response plan for physical education professionals as a part of college centenary celebration. A great visionary and physical educationist, Mr. Harry Crow Buck established this college in 1920, who is the father of physical education of India. This college has produced more than 1 lakh of physical education professionals. They are the pillars of Indian physical education and the ambassadors of this great college YMCA. This is a great moment for this college to organize such an international virtual conference. Fortunately, we have an outstanding resource persons are with us. And this conference would be very informative and thought-provoking. These deliberations would be eye-opener for physical education professionals, coaches, and research scholars, I hope. And I hope all the sessions would be very fruitful. And I would like to appreciate the organizing secretaries, Dr. Glady Kribagar and Dr. Jerome David, for their tireless work and effort to make this conference in an effective way and very beautiful manner. Before concluding, once again, I welcome all the dignitaries, eminent personalities, and other delegates to this college and the international conference. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all. On behalf of all the participants of this international conference and on my personal behalf, I would like to thank Dr. George Abraham, Principal, YMCA College of Physical Education, for his special address and welcome. I'm happy to welcome Mr. J. Benjamin Franklin in this platform for his felicitation. Now I'll brief his profile before his felicitation. Mr. J. Benjamin Franklin is a professionally trained social worker, having introduced several innovative approaches in social work practice, especially in community health, community development, women's development, and community organization. I've served as national consultant to many Indian states and have trained many field administrators and field workers in mastering pupils' participation in community development. I've been consultant to many international funding partners for mentoring, appraising, evaluation, and training for over 40 years. As a trained counselor and have trained many counselors, especially for premarital, postmarital, and for problem-solving techniques. Is an active YMCA leader and contributed much for the development of YMCA movement. He has served in many organizations as its president, secretary, and treasurer. At present, holding the responsibility of the YMCA College of Physical Education, Chennai, as its correspondent and secretary. Sir, we are happy and eager to listen to your felicitation. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Simpson. It's a great privilege to be present on this occasion to give my presentation. Respected Chief Guest Professor Dr. Ravindran, dear Guest of Honor Professor Dr. Archana Chahal, Dr. Leandi Berg, Dr. Rakesh Shamor, Dr. Damara Ramesh, the speakers, other dignitaries, Dr. George Abraham, Mr. Rajiv George, Dr. Glady and Dr. Jerome, the organizers of this program, their faculties, and dear participants. I am bringing greetings from the YMCA College of Physical Education, Chennai, on behalf of Justice Jacob Benjamin Koshi, our National President, and Justice Kurian Joseph, the Chairman of this college, and on my own behalf. The YMCA emblem, the equilateral triangle, you see, depicts body, mind, and spirit. Sports also is an integration of body, mind, and spirit. A healthy body with an appropriate mindset and proper motivation is very much needed for a sports person to excel. These fitness combined with scientific techniques and scientific training makes a sports person fit for a competitive sports. Modern day sports includes competitive or corporate intelligence, which gathers information on competitors, coaches, trainers, spectators, audience, and other factors involved for promotion of competitiveness and promotion of sports itself. Sports is a frontier science which is based on multidiscipline, as you all know. It is precisely because of the progress of modern science and technology, sports science research can be developed in depth, and it provides a theoretical basis for the scientific selection of athletes. It is also a theory and method system of human genetics, sports training, sports anthropology, sports physiology, sports measurement, and so on. For sports training, it can provide effective data. It provides an important basis for scientific and reasonable strength training, provides objective conditions for improving sports performance, and provides reference for scientific selection of sports talents. But our current material and scientific research strength is weak. Rational nutrition is also an important factor in sports facility. A large number of research topics in human movement science come from the recovery of physical ability and nutrition, and as such, sport nutrition also plays an important role in the modern day competitiveness in sports and research, and the application of nutrition supplements also plays a vital role. This is a fact most competitors and coaches fail to recognize, either due to lack of knowledge or direct access to knowledge. This is another factor need to be addressed and marketed for the growth of sports and competitive sports and games. And this occasion, I congratulate the faculties, especially the organizers, for their tireless efforts under the leadership of Dr. George Abraham, the principal of the YMCA College of Physical Education, which is celebrating its 100 years of training sports faculties and coaches for having chosen an apt topic such as today's topic. I am sure that this international conference will enlighten each one of us about competitiveness, intelligence, and sports nutrition, and wish the speakers and the participants a great, useful day. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I am welcome. Good morning to all. I am Dr. Abraham Davidson. I would like to thank our correspondent secretary, Mr. Benjamin Franklin, for his facilitation address. I would like to introduce the resource person for the first session, Dr. Leandi Wedberg. She is a senior lecturer in Northwest University in the Department of Sports Business Management. She had done his PhD in sports science from Northwest University on competitive intelligence in sport. She had published 12 research papers. She had presented 12 national and international conference papers. She was awarded with the Distinguished Teaching Experience or Excellence Award in 2018, Research Excellence Award for 3 consecutive years, Best Lecture Award, and she had also completed a number of research projects. She is an executive committee member for TILIT of South Africa. She is the reviewer to national and international journals. She is an organizing committee member for ICSS 2020 conference in South Africa. And she is the manager to South African student tennis team to World University Games, which was held at South Korea. I do welcome the resource person to share and pour her experience in this unique platform. I welcome Madam.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Davidson. I want to thank the YMCA College of Physical Education for this invitation. Thank you also for the kind words and the welcome. I want to thank the Honorable Principal, Dr. George Abram, the Chief Guest, Prof. Ravindran, the Guest of Honor, Prof. Chahal, and then also the Organizing Committee. Thank you very much, Dr. Glady, and also my colleague, Dr. Tumar. I can say that so far I have picked up on your immense passion that you have, all of you, for YMCA. And I am very honored to be part of this international conference and to be able to share in your strategic endeavors to be prepared for physical education. I take it, Dr. Glady, that you can see my screen and I can see my slides and that I'm audible. Just want to
Yes, you are audible. We are able to see your screen. You can proceed, please.
Thank you. Yes, as I'm also an educator and training students to go out into the world, I have a lot of research that goes into the topic there, which is competitive intelligence, but also research going into how I teach and what we teach and the skills that we develop with our students. Saying that, I just want to change this quickly. We're living in a world where there is so much data available. There's so much information, so many resources, and in the end, it's not about the information that if we use it, it is how we use it. And I think this is applicable not only actually to coaches and teams and athletes, although a lot of my research was on coaches and athletes. I think it is actually applicable to a wide variety of things that we do in life. In everyday life, you need to collect data, you need to analyze it, and you need to be able to make quick and effective decisions that will bring you success. So in effect, that is actually what competitive intelligence is about. And in the world of sport, competitive intelligence is that within your team, then you use a systematic process where you collect your data, you analyze it, and then you have a dissemination platform or how you communicate it. And in the end, you use competitive intelligence. The intelligence you created is used for strategic decision making. And we all know that decision making is something that is not very easily definable. And decision making is not something that you can really teach a person. In a team setup, the coach have to make a lot of decisions. The captain, the senior players within a team, on a daily basis and within matches, there are so many data points and information coming into them that they need to make a lot of decisions. And how do you train coaches and athletes then to be able to make good and effective decisions? Well, one way that I've researched now for a few years is to I'm going to say, establish an effective but a systematic manner of which you look at data and how you analyze it and then how you communicate it and use it for your decision making. So I'll go into that a little bit later, but I want to ask the question, which is in light of your strategic conference that you're having, why would it be necessary for us to look at competitive intelligence and why we need to develop it with our students, even in our daily lives, but also in teams and coaches? And I think we have to tell each other that, it's necessary because the sports industry has seen tremendous changes. We can just say, over the past few months already. But a lot of my research has gone into the influence of the fourth industrial revolution that has come on and what that meant within the sports industry. And now, as I said, likewise, the last year, COVID, and the influence that the whole, I want to say the volatile environment that the sports industry is in. So that's why I think it's very, very important and it's very relevant that you are hosting this strategic conference on planning and being prepared, because the changes that have occurred within the whole sport industry has been tremendous. And I think it is relevant that we therefore reflect on what is going on and that we find, favorable solutions in that regard. So if we quickly look at this, we have so many things that have taken place. The sports industry met technological innovation, right? And we've seen this expansion. It's grown to an entire ecosystem, and there are so many stakeholders. And of course, physical educators are one of those stakeholders within this whole sports industry. So if the whole sports industry is constantly evolving and expanding through these innovative and cutting edge technologies, we should ask ourselves, where do we fit in? How are we going to adapt? And that's why I say it fits in with a strategic conference. So I'm just quickly want to show a few trends that we have seen over the past 5, 6, 7 years or more almost. We've seen a burst in data analytics. And this is then linked to competitive intelligence, which I will talk on a little bit more. But just the data analytics that are now available and are used to provide a competitive advantage, to teams and individuals, improving the game, improving the performance, supporting training, recruitment, market segmentation, everything that you think about. There's so much data outside, and we need to be able to have a systematic way of sifting through it. We also know the media explosion around, over-the-top digital video providers and the influence of that into the sports industry. And of course, wearables. Wearables and performance enhancement technologies have captured and you track your user activity. It provides data for performance enhancement, for health, all of that kind of thing. And what does the coach do with that? So the number of wearable devices in the world is expected to increase from 325 million in 2016 to over 830 million in 2020. I think we've surpassed that 2021. So we can see that these are the key aspects, together with the following key trends that we are seeing. Apart from stadiums not being filled now with COVID, but the whole trend with fans and spectators within stadiums have changed. We know about the rise in esports. So the key trends take us towards questions that we ask on, so what does the future look like? And as I said, the fourth industrial revolution and the onset of technology has changed the world of sports. It has changed many of our jobs, even us as educators. And there are still many transformations that will take place within this. And I think we need to be ready. We need to strategize and come up with solutions so that when we educate our students and when we train new coaches and athletes, that they are able to be competitive in this immensely changed and competitive sport environment that has sprung up. Just maybe a very interesting fact, there's been quite a few studies by Oxford University, but they have already published in 2013, I mean, it's 7-8 years ago, because of the fourth industrial revolution advancements, and because it has changed sports so much, that there will be jobs that will fall away. And some of those jobs, they actually predicted would be something like a referee. And we know that the influence of video coming in and replay, and in soccer there's the VAR. We also know in a few other sports, where there's so much technology around the court and around the field, that they are wondering about the influence or the continuous existence of a job such as a on-field referee. Right, but what it means is that the changes in the sports industry has a monumental job market. It says that, and this is as recent as in the next year or two, that there would have disappeared, and I think this is even more augmented by COVID, but they would have disappeared, as they say, about 75 million jobs would have disappeared, and it will be replaced by 133 new types of jobs. Now, this was already researched by the World Economic Forum within the sports industry, and this was before the COVID pandemic. So I think what is going to happen is that we might see a whole reconfiguration of the whole sports industry. Things will work differently. Coaches need to operate differently. Athletes need to come in. They're going to compete. But in effect, the whole sports industry is definitely changing. It has been changing, and I think the changes will be accelerated now as well. So what does this mean for us? It means that we as educators will need skills. We need to adopt to the new technology. Are we using technology? Are we training our students? Are we training the coaches and the athletes correctly? And I've had quite a few studies that went into observing what are the skills needed, because I want to teach my students these skills. And if you have a look at what has been said is needed, then is things like analytical thinking and innovation. You look at complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, reasoning, problem solving, creativity, originality, initiative, attention to detail. I like these other soft skills like trustworthiness, them sort of values, leadership, social influence, but also emotional intelligence and active learning. So if we look at these skills that are needed by our students within this augmented, changed, volatile sports industry, I ask myself as an educator, how am I going to develop these skills? And this is now, I think, also part of your strategic process and being prepared. A lot of our research goes into what do we use and the technologies we use in class. How do we teach the students to use that? Because when they are a coach and they go outside into the world coaching a team, they need to be prepared with all of the different technologies available, the wearables. They need to be knowledgeable on what data to sift through, how to analyze it, and then, of course, how to use it for strategic decision making. We can say that a lot of people have asked the question, if we go back to the different skills, you know, if technology comes in and there is so much technological expansion and explosion, not everything will be taken over by technology, because you still need people to come in relationships. And this is very much part of the coaching process, physical education. And we need to realize that even though there will be a lot of technology enhancements and the use of technology in education and in the sports industry, we still need to develop skills like emotional intelligence and human skills, you know, like social influence, coordination, management, leadership, trustworthiness, giving attention to detail. You know, and there's a thinking that artificial intelligence will take over and that robots will do everything or technology will do everything. However, it's not completely true, because artificial intelligence, they can only solve problems that are structured and have certain parameters. And if you think about it, real world problems in sport, in life, they are messy. They don't always have specific parameters. They aren't always structured. And this is where the human thinking comes in. We as humans have the ability, much more still than artificial intelligence at this stage, to make sense out of various data points and to reach a conclusion. So this is definitely something of analytical thinking and this innovative thinking and skills that we need to teach our students. We need to educate them, because they still need to be complex problem solvers. I mean, in this day and age, with all of the influence of COVID, it's still people managing institutions, managing organizations, managing teams, and they have to make sense out of everything that is happening now, and they have to provide the vision and the decisions to go forward. So even though we say that technology comes in and a lot of data and information is available, we shouldn't throw away the human element, most definitely. So with that in mind and setting that, you know, I've spoken then about data and technology and where everything fits in. I want to go over a little bit then to competitive intelligence, and then the process that I'm suggesting that we you know, teach our coaches, or that we even teach our teams and our athletes, so that they can sift through the data, they can collect it, analyze it, and then use it for strategic decision making. So within the process, the competitive intelligence process, you always start with a decision maker. So it means the coach, obviously, he's the one who will probably make the executive decision. So this is the person then who will start to plan and direct the whole process. What information will be needed? And therefore, you will direct the information collection process. You will assign certain people, ask them to collect specific information. Of course, then that information needs to be sorted. It needs to be captured if necessary, if there's new information, and then it needs to be stored. Of course, the storing needs to be accessible as well, but then it needs to go over to this information analysis process. And there are various processes that you can use for that. We'll get into that now. But in the end, it's about using the intelligence, using the data that is analyzed and now is information. And I use this created intelligence so that I can make strategic decisions. And you can see it's a cyclic process. And it means that I will continue with this process again and again. Of course, I will make strategic decisions, and after implementing those strategic decisions, let's say I'm a coach, I make a specific choice of specific batters or bowlers in my team. After the match and after I've seen the outcomes, I again start with this process where I need to plan what information do I need to ascertain if the decisions that I made and the team selections that I made of my batters and my bowlers were correct. And I need to go into the cycle again of where I analyze how they perform now, how these batters or bowlers performed within the team setup. It again creates intelligence for you, and it informs your decisions then for the next round as well. This is just a general, I want to say, competitive intelligence process. I want to get into a little bit more specifics, and I'll share some of my research there as well. Within my research, I've seen that many coaches would say that, yes, they have this organizational awareness of data, and they would say that they use a lot of analysis. However, as soon as I ask them for specific examples, they sort of get stuck and they can't answer you, which is an indication that everybody knows I need to use information. Everybody uses a little bit of information within teams. However, they don't have a systematic process. And I can honestly say that within the South African teams that I'm involved in, the creation of this competitive intelligence culture and awareness is a very prominent topic. And the coaches that I'm working with are very cognizant of how do I create a culture where everybody in the team has the opportunity to collect data, to consider the data, and then to be involved in the decision making, because that's what competitive intelligence is about. So that is a huge strive for all of the coaches at this stage, is to have that inclusiveness, because within a team setup, I think India, loving cricket as much as I also do, and the South Africans, if I take the cricket example, in a cricket team, very often you have your senior players who has played, for the Indian cricket team for a very long time, and often it's only the voice of the senior players who is heard, and the junior players, they sort of just sit and they listen and they receive the information from the senior players, and they do whatever the senior players say or the information that they receive. But in this manner then, the junior players within the team are sort of, I want to say, only recipients of information. And we create that culture where they sit and wait for information. But if you have a culture of competitive intelligence and everybody is included in the process, it means that the junior players also are taught on which data points to collect and how to come and communicate it to the team, sort of throwing it into the pool so that it can be used and analyzed for the team's strategic decision making. So in this regard, if we have a look then, at the decision makers, what the process entails is that it's not only just the coach and maybe the cricket team captain that makes the decisions. Yes, they have executive powers and they will make the final decision. But we want a situation where we develop these skills with all of our players, because if you remember the skills that I showed, like analytical thinking, decision making, problem solving, these are the skills that we want to teach our players within the whole team. And they need to use it so that we all can make better decisions, ultimately the coach and the captain as well. It is about the starting point then of these decision makers, the coach or the captain. And it's all about, at this stage, educating them. What is their knowledge about data and analytics? What do they know about using the different technologies? We've also seen that coaches have a specific strategy in mind long before the match. So they know they are playing against a specific team, and already they have a plan in their head. And what happens is the coach will now look for information that confirms their plan. But if you think about that, he is probably missing a lot of other information that might change his plan, but he's missing that information because he's not looking for it. And therefore, we also need to teach the coaches that they have to be open to all the data. They sort of have to put their strategy aside first. And then you can start with the competitive intelligence process. We also know that if the coach does not value information, then he won't use a variety of information sources. I have interviewed many of our top Commonwealth Games coaches, cricket South Africa coaches, some of our analysts. I have interviewed some of the netball, our high-level coaches and analysts, and it's interesting. In a way, we cannot say that it is the older aged coaches that do not or disregard data, because some of the oldest coaches were those that first appointed an analyst and wanted data in a specific format. This is purely, I think, individual preference, but it has a huge effect on the whole competitive intelligence process, because if a coach does not value information, he will not assign a person to collect it. You will not have this culture of everybody being involved and included in collecting and analyzing data and enhancing these skills of analytical thinking within the team. And of course, then you will see that the whole competitive intelligence process sort of breaks down. So it means that we need to really upskill our coaches. We sometimes need to broaden their views on data, and not just data from an analyst, but I want to say data from a variety of sources. And we need to teach our coaches at this stage. A lot of my teaching within the sports industry and coaches I'm working with goes into the key performance indicators that they need to identify. Because we know even in cricket, all of the statistics that are available, there's so much stats. So what do we look at? What is going to help me that I can make a decision in the end? And within a few interviews that I've had with Commonwealth Games coaches in South Africa, the top coaches showed me that through 100 or 200 different data points, the top coaches were able to sit and work through with the analysts, and this is over a period of time. They work through all of the data and information, and they are able to narrow it down to, I want to say, 6 to 10 specific data points that they want the analyst to continuously track and monitor and report on. And those are the aspects then, only specific things that the coaches make decisions on. See, and this is now in this technology disruption and eruption, there's too much data available. And there's a very long and hard process that coaches have to go through that they can identify. But what are the key things, the key aspects, my key informational needs that I need that has to be collected? So, of course, you need a bit of knowledge. You need to spend time on this. I know the one Commonwealth Games coach spent a considerable amount of time involving 5 or 6 people, and this is now for the South African hockey team. I know hockey is also a very famous sport, favorite sport in India. Our hockey coach spent so much time talking to various analysts and senior players and experts within the sport, that he can identify those key elements and the key data that he needs information on, so that he can coach, enhance the performance, but also that he can go and be competitive within the various different competitions that they competed in. Dr. Glady, you will just give me an indication of the time. Sorry, sir. Is that okay?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, colleague. I beg your pardon?
We have an N number of questions also, ma'am, and you can rush your PPTs and then we can get into discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. colleagues, yes, if we then come to, the whole education of the coach, we've educated them, they've bought into this process because it is a little bit of a change management as well. You need to change the way they have operated maybe. You come to now it has to be implemented. And what has to be implemented? Well, the data collection. And in this regard, as I said previously, within a lot of sports, not just the cricket and hockey that I've been involved in mainly, other sports such as tennis and netball as well, it's very much seen as the responsibility of an analyst to collect data. However, it's only one person. And this is where we get back to the culture and the awareness, where we ask each and everyone in the team to be able to collect. Now, of course, a junior player is not going to collect the same information and data that the analyst is going to collect. And that is good because the analyst has a specific function and specific skills, and they are able to collect data in a different format, probably more sophisticated, using technology, maybe videos and coding those videos. And the junior player within the team will not have those skills. But this is where, again, we upskill the players in the team, giving them analytical skills, trying to help them to sort through the information, having critical thinking skills, those needed skills because of the fourth IR, and then bringing it to the team and bringing it to the platform, and therefore helping them to also develop their decision-making skills. So within a whole team setup, coaches have to expand their view of who is collecting data. It cannot just be the responsibility of an analyst anymore. And that's the thing then, if you say that there are more resources, of course, it's more information that is available, and that is, again, something that has to be managed. So therefore, I need a very structured process. So you have specific persons, but as I said, we want to involve all of the players, all of the assistant coaches, the staff members, everyone can contribute. You have specific sources, though. Each one can attain information from different sources. In this regard, you will have your primary sources and secondary sources. So primary sources of information that a team may need refers to information that is specifically collected for a specific decision that a coach wants to make. So it will come from the coach, the decision maker. You will ask probably the analyst then to please record and analyze the team that they will be playing against next. And he would ask the analyst, I want you to specifically look at player X, Y, and Z, and I want you to look at these aspects of them. So as you can see in this whole competitive intelligence process, it started with a decision maker, the coach, who has specific informational needs, and then he directs a person to use specific primary sources so that he makes his decision. That's a primary data source. We also have secondary data sources. And this is, I think, probably where your players come in, your assistant coach. There are statistics available on the internet. Players play against other players, and they have experience, they have knowledge, they have information. But that information is sometimes lost. But that is a secondary information source. And coaches need to learn how to tap into that and use those sources of information as well. Of course, you need to upskill your people for this. And you need to intentionally develop these skills, develop this process within a team setup. If we continue to, then the information sorting and the store. The data and information has to be stored, but also it needs to be validated. I know in some instances a junior player within a team is so enthusiastic about having the opportunity to bring information. However, sometimes it's a very skewed perception that he or she has, and it has to be validated. The information has to be, seen as reliable. Similar to even your most skilled video analysts, in a way, they first validate their information because not very often, but it has happened that the information that they provide, excuse me, may not have been reliable. But in that process, we teach the analysts and the coaches then how do you make sure that your information is reliable. Of course, we also then have the analysis, and here, again, it's dependent. It's dependent on the skills of your analyst that you have. In the work that I've done within the sports industry, I see a clear distinction between your top level analysts and the work that they can do, the video analysis that they can do compared to lower level analysts and the statistical analysis that they can do. Again, it's an area of where education can take place. Within our sports science, the video analysis, video analyst skills is something that is addressed. I have taught a module of video analysis for many, many years, where we teach the students on how to use the software and how to make analysis themselves. I think it just helps them so that they can direct the analysis when they get into the team setup. But that is something that we're really focused a lot, video analysis within our own curriculum. I can say then the last thing that is very important is the information sharing. Very often it also happened that an analyst would have a lot of good information. However, the way that the analyst shares it with the team or with the coach has been a barrier in the information being used. In this instance, I want to say that the coach very often is the gatekeeper between the analyst and the information, and that reaches the team. And again, if you go back then to our starting point, if your coach does not value a lot of information, you can think as a gatekeeper, the coach is going to stop a lot of the information coming from an analyst. Let's say a team has a professional analyst. Because the coach does not value it, he may have a situation where a lot of the information does not get through. And this is why it's important that the whole process is addressed within the team. And the information sharing needs to be well defined. It has to be shared in different methods. It cannot just be verbal. It cannot just be during a team meeting. It has to be shared via WhatsApp or via email or visually on boards within the dressing rooms. There has to be various ways of sharing data and information that is systematic, and it is documented, and it is kept track of. And in a way, coaches either in a team setup, what we have seen, they will either communicate information verbally, or they will have the analyst come in with the analytical video analysis session. And those are the two main ways that they use it. It's not wrong, however, it's very limited. If we again think about everything that is available, data and analytics, different software, but also different team setups and having a culture of competitive intelligence, it means that you are limiting yourself if you're only using those two methods of information communication. So there's a variety of ways that has to be addressed within the education of our coaches. We have found, getting to the end of my presentation, I found a few considerations. We know that within the varying competitive levels, this process where data is collected, analyzed, and communicated and used for decision making will definitely differ. At our lower levels, where there's not a lot of funding, coaches don't have the technology, they don't have an analyst, and does that then mean that they can't use that information. I was surprised that a few coaches that I had interviews with during my research, if the coach values information, they will find a way to collect data and information. Even though they don't have funding, even though they don't have the technology, they definitely find a way. I even found that top-level coaches who do have specific and expensive resources, video analysts to their disposal, did not always use it because they did not value the information. So varying findings from varying levels. We saw that the progression of the players was influenced, most definitely because there weren't this competitive intelligence process that was actively, I want to say, instated within the teams. The younger players struggled to make sense of the game. They struggled to, find their feet within the different competitive levels, and they struggle to get through the systems. However, if you have a coach at a lower competitive level, but they are able to teach the players these skills of analytical thinking, collecting specific data and decision making, those players were the ones who were able to go through as well. We have seen a lot of inadequate data collection, I said at various different levels, but the most apparent, I think, was that it's haphazard. There's not a systematic process. Coaches will take a little bit of information from this side, they will next week, before they play a match, take information from this source. It's very ad hoc, and this is what the competitive intelligence process is about, having a systematic process. And then, of course, also coaches struggled in identifying their key informational needs. They could not pinpoint, what is it that I need? And I think you can maybe make a study out of this. You can just ask a coach, so what are the 5 things, 5 informational points that you need to make a decision on regarding your next match? And they're going to struggle to answer that. It's not because they don't have the knowledge, it's difficult because there are so many. And if they haven't gone through the process of limiting it and excluding the information that is not needed, then of course they will struggle with this. Right, but what do we need then? If we say we want to teach our coaches and our athletes, we need skilled analyst coaches, and we need to teach them then. They need to be able to use easy accessible data. There are so many data resources out there, but they're not skilled in accessing them and using the data. We can teach them that. They need a systematic process. People are, in a way, habitual, meaning I like to do things similar, because we know within the similarity and doing it again and again, there is performance, and I can enhance that performance. So we do need to teach coaches and athletes before competitions. There's a systematic approach that you need in your data collection so that you get to your strategic decision making. We've also seen that the relationships are very, very important. I have a lot of emphasis of a relationship between coach and analyst, especially the person collecting the data. Because if the analyst is collecting data, and this happens within, I've seen it in cricket as well, and in our hockey, if the analysts have all of this nice data and they think it's wow, and they get it to the coach, and the coach looks at it for 1 minute and doesn't really use it. The poor analyst, all of that hours of working. However, what's happening is the analyst is collecting information that the coach does not value. And this is because the relationship, the communication has not been clearly defined. And the decision maker, the coach, is supposed to direct the information collection. And this is done through that communication and through sharing that. Coaches many times make a decision on gut feeling. I've heard so many coaches say this. I don't know, in physical education, if you know, actually maybe everyday life, sometimes we make decisions everyday life with a gut feeling. However, there are some data points that we can make decisions on. So future considerations, I'm ending off with this. You know, we need to train coaches to maybe look at data differently, to install a systematic process. There's a direct way of collecting data, various data sources, and we don't always need the best technology and the most sophisticated computers and software. It's not true. We just need to learn to be systematic about it, to be strategic about it, to be clever about it. And then we need to learn to communicate with each other, using it in specific situations, because this intelligence then leads to decision making. And I get back to decision making as the main priority of competitive intelligence, but also decision making as being one of the most sought after skills of graduates within this larger sports industry that we have. And that's why I think it is important that we address competitive intelligence within sports. I want to thank you very much. That is more or less my talk then.
Thank you, Madam, for giving us a very enlightened presentation. So being a coach, like we have been talking about IQ, EQ, intelligence quotient and emotional quotient, and then now you have spoken about the competition intelligence, which shows that it is one of the new topic that probably we are getting exposed to. And before I just wind it up, I just would like to say I request for a few questions. How do you make the validation and the reliability, ma'am? Just because you say that you are using video analysis, you have not used any questionnaire as such, as you mentioned about that. So could you be kind enough to just focus on how do you make the in a short form validation? Do you have somebody else who tries to look into the thing and then they say, yes, it is right? Or the analyst himself makes the validity and the reliability of it?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's dual, as you mentioned. The analyst will validate it, or they will validate it through another analyst. However, I think it's very important that you always just have someone else checking it as well. And then in that way, you know, you have your validation values of your Cronbach alphas, and that validates a questionnaire up to an acceptable level. But mostly I think it is validated through other people. There are various other ways. I know that they have statistical procedures that they look at it. The thing is, let's say I want to make a practical example. I'm a video analyst and I video record and I code that. It means that my coding and the way that I code has to be validated, and it is done through another person. So another person will come in, will check my way of coding, assigning, you know, meaning to the video, and that is statistically then calculated. Yes, it's called the inter-rater reliability, and it can be done with a Cohen's kappa.
All right, thank you, ma'am. One more question. Since you said that the students need to be exposed to the competition situation and then they have to collect data and all that, do you have appointed analysts with your national team for various games and sports, or people volunteer? Because here, if I go and start collecting data from the IPL team or something, that they may check me out. Oh, who are you? So do you have an appointed person, or just it goes randomly and somebody can come and give the feedback?
Thank you. Also a good question. Yeah, in South Africa, with our national teams, they have their own professional analysts traveling with them. And with some of our provincial teams, these are now professional teams, they used to have their own analysts, which are professional and paid. However, the national governing body, in one instance, I want to say they centralized it. So it means that the national governing body of the sport would pay analysts, and then coaches are able to, contact the analysts and ask them for specific information. However, that's one instance. Other national governing bodies would contract analysts in. So the national governing body would be paying analysts, and this is now at the highest level that I'm talking about. I want to say, and it's mostly at the highest and professional level. It's our national teams and then our professional teams that we have. Those are the ones, because there's money, there's funding. If you go to lower sporting levels, competitive levels, again, even a lower level, such as our secondary schools, our high schools, only those schools with sufficient funding will be able to assign a person to collect data, most definitely. So that's why funding is one of the considerations. However, as I said, you can still implement this whole competitive intelligence process, even in a tertiary institution team with limited funding and a limited budget.
Oh, thank you so much, ma'am. And there are many more, but I would restrict myself with this. Yeah. So on behalf of YMCA College of Physical Education, ma'am has come forward to spare your knowledge on the topic sports business. So here in India, sports business is comparatively less, and you have given very enlightening talk on how to manage that. And you have spoken about your how the competitive intelligence with you have to connect with the coaches, teams, and athletes, and how to analyze and then disseminate those data, and also the decision making and then implementing quick response based on the situation. Do you also talk about the pep talk comes into it, ma'am? Does it apply even in the competition situation sometimes? You go with the pep talk also?
It does, yes, of course. I think if you have a pep talk, you have to specifically know what you want to communicate. So most definitely, yes, you will use specific information then.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Our students are being exposed to the technological innovations, but they are very rarely exposed to handling such high-level cameras or the high-speed cameras and the photo taking and all that. Ma'am, you have really given us, and I think we can also, I think principal of YMCA College is here to have the MOU with your institution, where we can have some kind of sharing of students coming from your institution to our institution, so that we will be able to do. Ma'am, on behalf of the YMCA College management, the principal, the correspondence secretary, and the faculty members, I am delighted to present this beautiful certificate of appreciation to Dr. Leandi D. Burke, the senior lecturer, sports business management from South Africa. Ma'am, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and we can further have touch with you in future, in coming days. Please accept this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate it. Thank you for your kind words.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon. I consider it a great honor to me to introduce our chairperson at this juncture, Dr. Rakesh Tomar from Dhahran. His 23 years of teaching and research experience ranges from being a research scientist at Northwest University, South Africa, to a research fellow at Korea. He has trotted around 55 countries for conferences and achieved the mighty Karantungala pass by cycle. He is the recipient of National Teacher Award, Delhi, India, and won a couple of gold medals. He has been awarded 12 fully funded major research projects as principal investigator and published many papers. He has penned 3 books in physical education and continues to be a certified guide in his field, a national athlete, a foreign examiner, a board member, peer reviewer, visiting scholar. The list just keeps growing as his passion to learn and contribute grows by the second. On behalf of the management, principal, staff, and students, and also on my personal behalf, I extend a warm welcome to such an outstanding personalities. Welcome you, sir. Over to Ragesh Tomar.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Merlin, and a very good afternoon to everyone here in India. And it is my, privilege that I am here, and I'm honored to give, share, my information, and knowledge, about like one of like the topic of this conference, how we can statistically prepare, the professionals in physics and sports. And already, Dr. Liandi has given a wonderful insight, on one of the aspect that is competitive intelligence, and which is, very important. And I'll be talking on the nutritional aspect, which is again, an important, aspect of preparing our professionals, in the field of sports and physical education. So before I go further, I would just like to pay my gratitude and sincere thanks to the principal of YMCA College of Physical Education, Dr. George Abraham, under whose competent, leadership and guidance this program has been organized, and offering, offered me, this opportunity to share my knowledge. Thank you, Dr. George Abraham. And I'm sure under your leadership, this premier institute, of physical education in India, and of course, like, this institute is celebrating 100 years of existence, which itself, is very grand, and everyone knows, it has its own standing in the field of physical education and sports. So thank you so much. And all the participants who are here, on this platform for next, another 45 minutes or so. So without taking more time, let me just quickly share my screen with you, and just let me know if my screen is visible and my voice is clear.
Your screen is visible and your voice is audible.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Glady. Thank you so much. Okay, so the topic of my today's presentation is, reflection on sports nutrition, like strategies, to enhance sports performance. As I said, sports nutrition is, another important. It may be very small, but it's a very important aspect, of, which can, limit your sports performance. So. Okay, this is the outline of my lecture, and so I always say that, nutrition. Maybe if you look in the next slide, coming slide, I will tell you like how performance, can be enhanced. They are, the important factors, but nutrition may be just a 10% of that, but it is a limiting factor. So it means the nutrition can limit, improper nutrition can limit your performance. And once it limits your performance, then it becomes very, very important, however small it may be. So that's why nutrition has, sports nutrition, it's not from even like in recent past. Even if you look at some 100 years ago, it has played its, like maybe something like in 1800 something, 50s or something, when the, glycogen was first discovered, and we know that how glycogen and carbohydrate can be very limiting, in performance, especially in the endurance events. So what are the ingredients of making a champion athlete? And that's what we want. That's what we all professionals are here. We want to make, a champion athlete. So how do you do that? Of course, there are certain factors which we all know, like talent, motivation, training, trainability, injury prevention. These are very important. And if you don't have enough talent, if you're not motivated enough, you will not be able to train. And even if you train, you don't have the trainability, and you cannot prevent injuries, you will not be able to reach to your peak performance. So these are important, recognized factor for a champion athlete. But along with that, the most important, which I always feel, is the nutrition and the supplements. Because as I said in my previous slide, the nutrition is a limiting factor. And once it's a limiting factor, it has to be addressed, by the athletes, in a proper planned way. And that's what we call nutritional periodization. And to more specifically nowadays, even the carbohydrate periodization is being practiced by athletes so that they can, they can go into the competition and training with a proper, energy and other requirements. So I just would like to, before even I drill on other aspects, I would like to start with some of the examples. Some are very recent and some are from very maybe 100 years old. So this is a very recent in 2019. If we all know, in Vienna in 2019, Eliud, he made the history when he ran under 2 hours, full marathon, right? And he is the only man on the earth to run under 2 hours. And if we analyze, his performance, of this, 2 hours, sub 2 hours marathon, along with other conditions, the nutrition has played an important role. So in nutrition, especially, if you look at, his pre-race glycogen, loadings, and if you look at the caffeine and nitrates, he consumed, during this 2 hours, marathon, which played a significant role, in, reaching to this milestone. And as I said, if you go back, long back to say 1912 Stockholm Olympics, this is again the importance of, like nutrition in the sense like, hydration, the water. So if, as I said, it's a limiting factor. And if you look at, in that marathon, in 1912 Stockholm Marathon, in the Olympics, it was like conditions were not very good, not very conducive for the marathon. It was like 32 degrees Celsius, which is quite hot, for such event. And if you look at the history, of that marathon, more than 50% of runners did not complete the marathon. So it's a big thing. So it means because they were not properly hydrated, and because of the heat and other factors, and so their performance, was limited, and they were forced to withdraw from the event. And that's how the performance can be limited, by the poor nutrition. And again, this is one of the example, of the dehydration, what dehydration can do, with athletes. This is, Francisco Lazaro, one of the athlete, what he did, he ran, he covered himself with a layer of wax, because of, like he wants to do some experimenting, and because of this, the layer of wax, he could not sweat enough, and it's interfered with the mechanism of sweating in the body, and because of that, it is overheat condition in the body, and the body temperature rise above 42.1 degrees Celsius, and ultimately he collapsed after 30 kilometers, and he died. So it's like this is like if the athlete is not properly trained, not properly nourished, not properly prepared, for the competitions, it can lead to even death, and that's in the case of this athlete. So what are the, like, again, when we talk about the athletic performances, athletic performance can be, we can say, there are many factors, like, if you look at different events, ranging from the sprint, throw, jump to the long distance, so there are different factors, which play an important role. Like, if you look at the sprint, throw, and some combined events, the neuromuscular, factors are important. If you look at the long distance, from middle to long distance, the physiological factors are, more, like, detrimental in that. And sorry, my internet, yeah, it's coming now. And further, then anaerobic power, aerobic power, the buffering capacity, your lactic acid tolerance, your running economy, endurance, how, your lactic threshold, so all these factors are well known, and they can influence, your performances, in these type of, events, ranging from sprint combined to the long distance runners. And the important thing here, I want to, what I want to emphasize here is that all these physiological and neuromuscular factors can be influenced or can be altered, with the help of proper nutrition. Like, if you look at here, some of the nutritional interventions, like in case of aerobic power, it's very well known that beetroot or the nitrate, can improve your aerobic power. It can also help, in the in high intensity exercise also. I will be talking about, towards the end of my lecture, about beetroot. The caffeine, is an important supplement, which is, which can also influence performance, both in aerobic and anaerobic, conditions. Sodium bicarbonate is very important, especially for your lactic acid, tolerance, and converting, that lactic acid into the energy. Beta alanine And some of other factors are also important, which can especially the optimum hydration is very important, because if you're not hydrated well, that can influence your cardiac output. And if your cardiac output is influenced, if there's a less plasma concentration in your body, so then it will increase your stroke, decrease your stroke volume, and increase your heart rate, so it will affect your performance. So nutritional intervention can alter or affect all these detrimentals of sports performance. So what should be done? Basically, an athlete should take an varied and wholesome nutritional rich diet. That's very important. So these three words are very important: varied, wholesome, and nutritional rich diet. And the diet you take should should meet your energy requirements, and it should be largely based on, of course, the fruits and vegetables, animal products, oils, carbs. And if you are not taking animal products, you should be taking enough beans, legumes, and grains to fulfill that gaps in the protein, and of course must ensure adequate vitamins and minerals along with proper hydration. And we always say, like during my journey recently, I have switched, I'm moving towards sports nutrition, and I'm, as many of you might be knowing, I'm doing, international, this 2 years diploma from International Olympic Committee. And that's what, we are learning, that, that the food first, is the first approach, the first thing which you should be looking at, rather than looking at the supplements. And always, the athletes, and also the coaches and the professionals who are, counseling them, they're cautioned against the indiscriminate use of dietary supplements. So the first approach should be the food, and the second, depends upon the situation whether you will be taking supplements or not. And I'll be talking about the supplements again later on in my lecture. So a good and optimum diet basically can help you to achieve, gain from optimum benefits in your training program. It can enhance your recovery. You can maintain your ideal body weight. You can reduce the chances of injuries and illness. And of course, the athlete gets confidence. There is a consistency in his performance when he is well nourished. And of course, a good nutrition always, if he is taking a well balanced nutrition, then he will enjoy the food also, and that these are important things, alongside, the training part. So the first and important thing comes when we talk about the nutrition, for athlete, is the energy requirements, how much energy an athlete needs. So that's the first thing which has to be addressed, by all nutritionists, and your energy requirements depends upon your size and the physique, amount of body fat you have, amount of muscle mass you have. So getting the right amount of energy is very important to stay healthy and perform. If you take too much energy, your body fat will increase, very simple. And if you're taking too little energy, then your performance will fall and illness will result in it. So as you are well aware of that, our body has a capacity to store large amount of energy in different parts of your body, like in carbohydrate. Carbohydrate can be stored in liver and in muscles, and you can get roughly 100 grams in liver, and around to maximum, if you can load your muscles with glycogen, you can store up to 500 grams of glycogen in your muscles, which is very, very important. And that's how the Eliud, he performed, he was able to run under 2 hours in that marathon. And of course, in the fact, there's a large amount of, energy stored, which is sufficient, even to run 700 kilometers, hypothetically. So energy requirements can be calculated by using, there are so many formulas, for that. And the first thing you should know that how to calculate your resting metabolic rate. Okay. So once you know your RMR, then you can easily calculate, what is your total energy requirement, depending upon the level of your activity. So there are a number of equations here which are easily available at various platforms and are very valid and reliable equations used from quite long time. And then you can compute these values according to the status of your activity. If you are sedentary, if you're low active or very active. Of course, for the sports person, it has to be very active. Then you can find out how much is the requirement of energy for the athlete, right? The important thing here is I want to stress, and that's what normally we used to assess when we talk about the energy requirements, that your energy should not drop below 30 kilocalories per kg of fat-free mass. And if your energy falls below 30 kilocalories, then it will impair your performance, it will impair your growth and health. So this is very important, and it's not surprising that there are a number of elite athletes who face this chronic depletion or chronic deficiency of the energy, which is called as relative energy deficiency syndrome. And once an athlete develops this chronic energy deficiency syndrome, it's very difficult from that to come out. So all the coaches and nutritionists has to be very careful that your energy levels should not drop below 30 kilocalories per kg of fat-free mass. And if you look at the recommendations from the IOC Medical Commission, this is how it is calculated. That if suppose you are a 60 kg female and your fat-free mass is 48K, then and if you restrict your energy to 1800 calories, and if you're doing a 1 hour of exercise every day, so it means you're spending 500 calories for your exercise. So how much energy is available for you? It's 1800 minus 500, that is 1300 kilocalories. And if you divide it by your fat-free mass, it is 27 kilocalories, which is well below the recommended, the figure. So it means that this athlete, she is, well short of, the energy, and this will affect, not only his metabolic and hormonal functions, but also affect her performance and growth and health. So coming to the micronutrients, and when we talk about the micronutrients, the most of the time, the athletes they normally go for the supplements. They take the supplements for different vitamins and minerals, and which is which is certainly not a good approach to take these supplements without doing a proper testing and proper assessment of your requirements. So you can see here, if your status is adequate, then only you get so you get the benefit of these macronutrients. So if it is excessive or inadequate, it can lead to death in both cases, if it is excessive also, and if it is deficient. So it has to be in a stage in a status of adequacy always, not more, not less. And this is how this is a graph by which you can see here that if the status is adequate, you will reach to the optimum performance. So if you take more vitamins and minerals, your performance will be low. And if you take, more than the required, your these vitamins and minerals, again, your performance will drop down. So excessive intake of these vitamins and minerals, can also lead to the decrease in performance. And athletes and coaches should be aware of that. You need, only the adequate level. So you have to follow the recommended, dietary, guidelines for these vitamins and minerals. And if we analyze, the role of or the effect of these micronutrients on the physical performance, we can see that here, if your status is reduced, then what will happen, especially in case of a riboflavin, iron, magnesium, or zinc, if you have this subclinical deficiency of these vitamins and minerals, then this will lead to, the impairment of your endurance, time to fatigue, work efficiency, your increased heart rate, reduced strength, and which can ultimately lead to, your decrease in your training performance and increase in the time to recovery, and which ultimately, decreases your performance. So it's very important to maintain the adequacy level of these micronutrients, all time through your training and your competitive, phases. And here, this is, in one picture, I want to show you how important these micronutrients are, ranging from iron, copper, zinc, like they are very important for RBCs, and zinc especially is very important to convert the lactate, which is formed, as a byproduct of exercise, to convert that lactate back into the glucose, and so the zinc is very important. And even the marginal deficiency of zinc, if you look at the research, even the marginal deficiency of the zinc can impair performance. Of course, for most of the vitamins and minerals, the marginal deficiency does not affect that much, the performance. But if there is a subclinical deficiency, it will not only impair your performance, but will impair your health also. So we have to understand the difference between the marginal deficiency and subclinical deficiency of these macronutrients. And how do you know? So that's why we say always you need to do a proper assessment. Never take these vitamins and minerals without having a proper assessment. You should know, are you deficient on these or not? If you're not, on a deficiency, you should not be taking these, vitamins and minerals indiscriminately because your fellow athlete is taking, so I will also be taking. That approach is certainly incorrect. Moving to the next important macronutrient is a carbohydrate. And nowadays, even during my counseling to some of the elite athletes, I'm hearing from some athletes that that they don't want to take that much carbohydrate because of many reasons. Because there's so many researchers, so many controversies also there in the nutritional approaches. But if you look at the scientific data and all the researchers, the carbohydrate is the most important fuel for training and competition. So how much carbohydrate is required? Now, many times you may be taking carbohydrate in terms of the percentages. Like, for example, you may be getting recommendations to take 40 to 60% of calories from carbohydrates. So the percentage is not the right way, especially for the athletes. We have to recommend carbohydrate in the absolute numbers, in grams per kg of your body weight, because percentages are many times, because of the percentages, many athletes, they get less carbohydrate and less fuel. So if you are doing a light training, like for example, a skill-based activities, then you need 3 to 5 grams of carbohydrate every day per kg of your body weight. And if you're doing a moderate intensity training, you need 5 to 7 grams. For moderate to high intensity, like for example, if you're training for 1 to 3 hours, then you need 6 to 10 grams. And if you are involved in, very high intensity exercise, and if your training lasts for more than 4 to 5 hours, then you need to fuel your body with at least 8 to 12 grams of carbohydrate per kg of your body weight, so which is really high. So carbohydrate is very important for you to continue and sustain your activity for a longer time. Okay, and even for the recovery purposes also, it is very important that immediately after the exercise, the first 4 hours are very crucial. The first 4 hours, you must replete, whatever glycogen you have lost during the exercise. And we'll discuss, that later on in my lecture. So the muscle glycogen is, as I said, it's very important, and it has, it affects the performance. So it has been seen that, if there is elevated, muscle glycogen content, in your muscles, it can postpone the fatigue by at least 20% in endurance events, which last for more than 90 minutes. So that's so important, so crucial, And even like I'm personally, I'm athlete, and I'm running full marathons and half marathons, for constantly for last 2 to 3 years, and I have experienced, how the glycogen can be limiting, especially after say 30 and 35 kilometers of the marathon. Even the high carbohydrate diets, have been reported to improve time trial by 2 to 3%, which is quite significant. And this, shows the importance of, muscle glycogen. And the exhaustion usually coincides with a critically low, muscle glycogen content. If you are low on glycogen content, many times I have observed, and if you are coaches and if you are trainers, your athletes come to you with a complaint that he's very tired, he gets fatigued very easily. Just don't look at the training. Okay, you have done hard training. You have to see from the nutritional angle also whether he is getting enough, carbohydrate or not. Because if he's short of energy, then of course this will, lead to the fatigue, and tiredness, because of the training. So that also very important. So the glycogen is mostly, if you see, the 75% of the glycogen is stored in your, intermyofibril, which is located near the mitochondria and sarcoplasm, and the remaining is between the inside your, myofibril and some, percentage, in subsarcolemma glycogen. So the most of the glycogen is stored between, these myofibrils, and where and it is utilized, during, especially when the intensities, are very high and durations are long. And this is again very important. If you look at the research, here, if your exercise intensity is increasing, you are using the energy. The most of the energy is coming from, from, you can see here, from the your muscle glycogen. If the intensity is less, then the most of these fatty acids, and plasma fatty acids, they play an important role. So more intensity means more energy will come from the glycogen. Less intensity and longer duration means you will be burning more calories from the plasma free fatty acids and the plasma glucose and other fat sources. So this also you should keep in mind that if your intensities are very high, then you should have enough glycogen loading in your muscles, especially that we call it a pre-competition meals or pre-competitive meals. Now another important factor when we talk, because ultimately you have to consume carbohydrates. So what type of carbohydrate you will take? You will take the high GI foods, or you will take the low GI foods, or the foods with a high glycemic index. So that is again an important, and when you should take that. So for that you have to understand what is a glycemic index and what is a glycemic load. So the foods which are having a low glycemic index, they basically gives you a slower and sustained release of glucose to the blood, whereas the high high GI foods give you a rapid and short-lived increase in blood glucose. So you have to see the situation. Like for example, if I'm running a marathon and say after 60 minutes, if I have to consume the carbohydrate, what will I take? I will go with the high GI food. I will not go with the low GI, because I need an immediate supply of energy, right? So, and if we talk about a pre-competitive meal, for example, say 90 minutes or 2 hours before the event, I would rather go with the low GI food. So that's how you have to differentiate between the low GI and high GI food. And there are some of the examples for the low GI and high GI food, which you can see on your screen. And this is, one of, the sample diet, for the moderate high glycemic index diet and, the high nutrient-rich carbohydrate food. So just you can take a screenshot. This is from the IOC Medical Commission. So what are the strategies for choosing a carbohydrate before and for optimizing your glycogen recovery? So there are 2 aspects here. For example, if you are training 2 times in a day and the training hours are less than 8, then you have to have a different strategy. So if you have 24 hours as a recovery time, then you will have a different strategy. If you are having a 2 or 3 events in a day, suppose in the morning 8 o'clock you have an event, and then you have another heat maybe at 12 or 1 p.m. and then you have another one at in the evening. So if you are playing a repeated number of matches in a day, then you should have a different strategy. So if the rest between your competition or your workout is less than 8 hours, then you should start the carbohydrate intake as soon as it is practical for you to do that. So immediately, without wasting even 2 minutes or 5 minutes, you must start immediately. But if the period is more than 24 hours, then you can go with your normal prescribed diet, where you take, the carbohydrate according to the requirements, whether 8 grams or 10 grams according to the, type of workout you are doing. And you have to understand again, because many athletes, and this is a question which comes to me also a number of times, that should we go with a solid food or should we go with the liquid food? So many times some athletes feel that liquid food, if you take the liquid food, it is, the synthesis is more, but it's not like that. There's no difference in glycogen synthesis when you take, carbohydrates in the form of a liquid or solid. It's only the matter of the convenience, how well you train your gut. So training your gut is very important, and the training of the gut happens during your trainings, not during the competitions. So you should never try anything strange or anything new during the competition. If you want to take some gels or sports foods, or if you're going for liquid or solid foods during the competitions, you must try them in your training, so that your gut is well trained and there are no unpleasant situations or gastrointestinal discomfort during your competition. Another important thing when we talk about the carbohydrate is carbohydrate loading. And so there is, if we look at for last say 30, 40 or maybe 60 years, a lot of changes have been made, in the process of carbohydrate loading. Earlier, there was a classical approach, which was a 6-day approach, in which first 3 days you consume less carbohydrate and you train very hard, and the next 3 days you take more carbs and you train low. But now the approach has changed. If you look at a modified approach, then 2 to 3 days are enough. And if you train low for 2 to 3 days and take large quantity of carbohydrate, that should be enough to super compensate your muscles with the glycogen. And of course, you should try for the carbohydrate loading only if your your competition is more than 90 minutes of duration, not less than 90 minutes of duration. So that's very important. Okay. So and there's another concept, coming up, with the rapid super compensation. Of course, a lot of research still is required in that. But even like, it is called as a 3-minute supra maximal exercise, and even 24 hours, carbohydrate loading. These concepts are coming, but still, more research is required to validate this and, whether they are that effective or not. But generally nowadays, the modified 2 to 3 days approach is being followed by most of the athletes around the world. And this is a sample diet, of a carbohydrate loading. And if somebody wants to take the screenshot, you can take the screenshot of this picture, which can help you later on to understand, how you can supply a 630 gram of carbohydrate with this. And you can, of course, replace these foods according to your choice, by keeping the same numbers. So how much carbohydrate, before 6 hours before the competition? So and how much, around 60 minutes before, the competition. So these are again important things, because many athletes, they under consume carbohydrate. On some athletes, they over consume it. So both are bad. If you eat more before the competition, then it can lead to gastrointestinal distress. And if you did not load your muscles with enough glycogen before the competition, then you may be short on energy. So the strategy is eat 1 to 4 grams of carbohydrate per kg of your body weight before 6 hours of your competition. It means, for example, if you're taking, say, 4 hours before the competition, you can take 4 grams, of carbohydrate per kg of your body weight. And say 60 minutes before, if you're taking carbs, you can go for 1 gram of carbohydrate, per kg of your body weight. So in this way, you can prepare for the, for the competition. So it is very important to have a pre-competition meal, especially for the athletes and for the events when you start early in the morning. So generally, most of the events takes place early in the morning, say even 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So there is, and many times because of the traveling, because of other aspects, because of the where you stay, many times, many athletes, they miss the pre-competitive meals, and that certainly have an effect, on their performances. So you should take a pre-competition meal in the range of, like, as I said, 1 to 4 grams of carbohydrate per kg of your body, depending upon how much time before you eat. Now, during your events, for example, if your exercise duration is 45 to 75 minutes, then during that time period, you should take around 20 grams of carbohydrate every 1 hour. Okay. And if your exercise duration lasts up to 2.5 hours, then you should be taking 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate every 1 hour. And you should take it like when you take this carbohydrate, you should take in the initial phase of your events. So don't take it late, because you need some time to pass it through your stomach and absorb by the intestine. And if your exercise duration is more than 2.5 hours, then you need around 90 grams of carbohydrate every 1 hour. So this is how you can consume carbohydrate, irrespective of whether you are doing your running activities or you are playing any sports or football or any other game. So it depends upon the duration, right? Now, many athletes, they ask question, are all carbohydrates equal? Certainly not. Not all carbs are equal. And why they're not equal? Because there are different carbohydrates depending upon their, how well they are digested. So we term them as a slow or the fast, as I told before, high GI food and low GI food. So, but the question is not that which one is good, which one is bad. They both are equally good. So it depends upon the situation when you need slow and when you need the fast carbohydrate. Okay. And again, is sugar bad for athletes? Again, of course, sugar is like an enemy for many people. They take sugar in a very negative way, which should not be taken in a negative way. Simple sugar is also very important. It is also required, especially for the athletes. So the good or bad depend on the context, right? So if you're training very hard, for example, like if you take my example, when I run marathons and if I run my like 15K or 20K in my trainings, then during the training, I need sugar because I need immediate supply of glycogen, and especially, I have to constantly supply, glucose to the brain also. And if you're short of glucose or glycogen, it can affect your brain also during the exercise. And if it affects your brain, then it will affect your coordination, other things, your concentration. So sugar is important, especially if, you are involved in a very hard competitive situation. And another question which many athletes ask, that what is the shortest duration of exercise where eating or drinking during the session is worth? I have seen many times, many people, they are just walking for 30 minutes and they have the water bottle in their hand and they consume. So like, for up to 60 minutes also, you don't need anything unless the weather conditions are very hot and your exercise intensity is very high. If you are just doing a moderate activity, moderate intensity, you don't need anything for up to first 60 minutes. But yes, if you look at the research, on this aspect, so 45 minutes is the shortest duration, which during which if you take some carbohydrate, that will alter your performance. But when I say 45 minutes means all out 45 minutes, all out means you are exhausted after 45 minutes. It's not that you are walking 45 minutes and you take the carbohydrate, or you are just doing a simple, easy jogging for 45 minutes. No, it's all out 45 minutes. Otherwise, it's not required and it will not affect your performance because your muscles already have enough glycogen stores. So red S already I have discussed that earlier. I'll quickly go through this. Now coming back to the protein. Protein is another important macro, which is very fascinating to all the athletes, and many athletes normally overconsume protein. So the requirement is roughly 1.2 to 1.6 gram per kg of your body weight, not more than that. So if you are consuming more proteins, then you required, it does not add any added value to your performance. And you have to understand why the extra protein does not going to help you for anything, because your body can use only 20 to 25 grams of protein at one time. So if you take more protein at one time in your food, in your diet, say you're taking 50 grams of protein in your dinner, then your body will be using only 20 to 25 grams. The remaining 25 grams will be just excreted from your body, leaving no impact on your protein synthesis. So, and this is a maximum, also the minimum. So every meal, you must take at least 20 to 25 grams of protein. And if we look at some of the researchers, done on various elite athletes around the world, generally the athletes, they consume less protein in their breakfast and they consume more protein in their dinner, which is very wrong. And so they think that they have already taken or they have already consumed the required protein for the day, but they don't understand that if you consume more protein in the dinner, you will be only able to absorb 20 to 25 grams, not more than that. So they are actually the short of proteins. So if you look at the timing of the protein ingestion, various research shows that first 24 hours to 48 hours, the muscle protein, it remains elevated, during that time. And the best is, immediately after the exercise, if you take protein, that can help in, faster protein synthesis. And that's why we always say the first 45 minutes, after exercise is the golden time. In that first 45 minutes, you must take a combination of like hydration, or the milk, hydration, carbohydrate, and the protein. So I always say that the milk is the best, food after the exercise, because in the milk you get enough, like you get the liquid, you get the fluid, you get the carbohydrate, and you get the protein also in the first 45 minutes. So that's very important. Another important thing here I want to emphasize is the pattern of protein ingestion. Now, for example, if you need 80 grams of protein in a day, so how will you consume that 80 grams of protein? So if you're taking that 80 grams in two slots, 40 gram one time and 40 gram another time, that is not going to influence your anabolic response in the muscle. But if you're taking that 80 gram in the 4 slots, 20 gram each, then it is more better, and it can then the protein will be synthesized at much faster rate compared to that. So the pattern of protein ingestion is also very important. So how much protein immediately after the endurance exercise? So if you just finish your exercise, for example, you finish 2 hours of training or 1.5 hours of training, so how much you need? So roughly you need around, we can say 30 grams of protein after the exercise. So that can, stimulate, the muscle protein synthesis, after the exercise. So if you take more than 30 grams, it's not going to help you with extra protein synthesis. So because as I said in the previous slide also, the maximum your body can utilize at one time is 20 to 25 grams. So 30 grams means even if you are like, going on a 5 grams higher side, this is, better like on the safer side. So, but we don't recommend generally, the absolute number. Like for example, you should take 30 grams or 40 grams because it depends again on your body weight. So, if you are 100 kilo, then 30 grams for you will be short, and if you are say 60 kg body weight, then again it's a different. So, the ideal recommendations, are basically 0.3 to 0.4 gram of protein per kg of your body weight. This is what you should take immediately after the exercise. So if your body weight is more, then you need little more protein. If your body weight is less, you need less protein. So the 0.3 to 0.4 gram is important, which you should remember. Now, this is again very many athletes, they go with the protein supplementations and they ask many questions. Is protein supplementation useful? So yes, of course, I'm not saying that you should not take the supplement. Supplementation is useful, but again, depends upon the situation. So if you can fulfill the requirements of your protein with your adequate or your dietary food, then that should be the first approach. If you cannot do that, and if your circumstances, maybe the travel conditions or close, or less time between the competitions, during that time, if your nutritionist feels that you need more protein and you're not able to take protein with your proper food, then supplement can be useful. But you should not be taking supplement just because somebody else is taking. Okay. And what's the best source of protein? Of course, the animal proteins are considered as the best, and the reason is basically the greater leucine content. If you look at in the animal protein, why they are called best? Because they have the greater leucine content. Leucine is amino acid, essential amino acid, which is basically most important in triggering your protein synthesis. But it's not if you are taking a plant-based diet, you can get good amount of leucine content in the maize, millet, and even the red kidney beans. It's a very high. Even the potato is a high in leucine content. So but only thing is that you have to consume in more quantity. The whey protein also, this is again, many people are taking whey, and so they're saying the whey is best. It's not about the best or which is not the best. So it depends upon the requirement situation. So if you are sleeping, if you're taking a protein before the sleep, then whey is not a good option. During your training, of course, the whey is a better option because the whey protein has more leucine content, and that's why the whey is considered as a good protein. Before sleep, it is there are a lot of research going on, that should you take protein before the sleep? Yes, you should take enough protein before the sleep because you need to supply constant supply of protein, during that 8 hours of sleep, and so that when you go for a workout next day, your body is well prepared. So casein is generally recommended. Maybe you can take a milk or a cheese, something like that, around 30 grams of protein or 40 grams of protein should be enough before the sleep. And this is what the research shows, around 30 grams is, enough, and some studies even show 40 grams. So still more research is required, in the quantity of protein before sleep. Now coming to the hydration, as I said in the beginning of my lecture, when I give the example how Francis Lazaro, he died during the marathon because of overheating. So hydration during the training or competition is very important. And how much you should drink. Basically, the thumb rule is that you should not be losing more than 2% of your body weight. And I always, when I go for running, I keep checking my body weight before I go for a running, and when I come back after running, especially in the hot and humid conditions nowadays. If I'm losing more than 2 kg, it means I'm not taking enough fluid during my competition, during my training time. So limit your dehydration up to 2%. After that, then it will impair your health and performance also. So after the exercise, how much water you should drink? So there is no hard and fast rule that you should drink 4 glass, 5 glass, or 8 glass. The thumb rule is that you should be taking 1.2 to 1.5 liters of fluid according to each kg of your weight loss. So if you lose 1 kg after exercise, you must take 1.2 to 1.5 liter of fluid. If you lose 2 kg, you must take at least 3 liters of fluid, as soon as possible. And it should be as soon as possible. More you delay, more it will affect, your hydration status. Coming towards the end of my presentation, the last one is supplements and the sports foods, which is again, many athletes are taking these supplements indiscriminately without, taking a proper, study on that and proper guidance. They just take supplements. So they should not be taken without, the expert advice. Okay. And so there is a risk. Of course, you have to understand that no supplement is 100% risk-free. So whatever supplement, whatever brand it claims, no supplement is 100% risk-free. So there are risks involved. So you have to check the labeling, you have to check the contamination. Sometimes there is a contamination, and you have to check the health risk associated with those supplements. So all the athletes and those who care for them should take precautions, and you have to do a risk-benefit analysis, which is very important. Use supplements only when a benefit is likely. So you should be sure, your coach or nutritionist should be sure that yes, this supplement is going to benefit. If you're not sure, don't take it. Take supplement if you know that it is safe, and take supplements or the products that are low risk. Again, the protein powders and the supplements, they are used, indiscriminately, not only in the sports person, but also the people who are involved, in the fitness. So they are taking these supplements, again, they can be good, like in the form of a protein bars or some other products. But again, you have to understand that the everyday food and the extra protein, when you are taking, adequate diet, that adequate diet, or the everyday food basically fulfill your requirement of the protein. And generally, in most cases, extra protein is hardly required. So it is just a misconception basically, or a misperception, I will say, that many athletes feel that they need extra protein. So generally, if you are taking an adequate diet, of course, if your diet is poor, you're not taking enough calories, then you will not be, maybe then you are short of proteins. Otherwise, you don't need extra protein. And one more thing here, maybe this question will come later on. Some of you may ask that sometime you don't have enough time to eat, proper diet and food, and you need protein powders and all. Of course, you can take, but you understand that if you're relying too much on protein powders, then you will be short on the energy, short on the calories, and you will not be able to meet that requirement of 3,000, 4,000 calories in a day, because you are taking now these proteins and you're not taking enough carbohydrates. So there are, pros and cons for each thing. So it has to be very carefully, planned and balanced. And why many times we recommend this, maybe, this protein, foods or bars and all. This is the one reason. Like, for example, if you want to take a 24 gram of protein, if you take on the see on the first picture, you need 600 grams, too much food. In second, you can reduce the vegetables and all, still you can get 22 grams with the 300 grams. And if you look at, this protein bar, it is just 80 grams. So your stomach is, just you're occupying only 80 grams of the space, and you still can get 20 grams of protein. So these are like some of the reasons, why many athletes, they go with the protein bars and supplements. So, but as I said, it has to be used cautiously and carefully. Of course, there are some supplements which are recommended, and they are recommended by the international IOC Medical Commission. Also, they have recommended some of these supplements like caffeine, creatine, nitrate, beta-alanine, and bicarbonate. So these are also recommended by the IOC Medical Commission, and these some of these supplements has proven to be beneficial to athletes and sports persons. Let us quickly discuss some of them. The first is a creatine. So this is a supplement which might work. And how much you should take? You should take this creatine, especially in 4 to 5, around 5 grams for 4 times, per day for 5 to 7 days. In the loading phase. And the creatine is important basically, in enhancing your performance, basically high intensity exercise. If you're doing what you can see on your pictures also, in high intensity training, which you can be improved with the help of taking these creatine supplements. So caffeine is another supplement, and which, as I said in the beginning, Eliud Kipchoge, he also has taken the caffeine before his marathon, and taking around 3 milligrams of caffeine per kg of your body weight, and you should take at least 60 minutes before the exercise. So this can help in enhancing your aerobic endurance performance. And not only aerobic performance, the caffeine also has proven to enhance, your performance in high intensity and resistance training exercises also. But be careful not to consume too much of caffeine, because if you take more than 12 to 13 or 15 grams, then it can come under the category of that doping list. There's another supplement that is bicarbonate, which is very important. And bicarbonate, basically, it is also important, in the events which last for 1 to 9 minutes of duration, especially the high resistance training or high intensity trainings. So bicarbonate is important. So it can actually, they counter the negative effects of lactic acid, by maintaining the proper pH level, in your blood during the exercise. So bicarbonate is another supplement which is quite effective, in high resistance training, high intensity trainings. And last one, recently, this even I have done one critical analysis of one paper on beetroot juice. So beetroot juice is, and as I said in the beginning, also Eliud Kipchoge also he used nitrate, and nitrate, the most important source of nitrate is the beetroot. So beetroot juice can also improve your performance, especially these high intensity exercises, and also it can improve performance in endurance training. But still, a lot of research is required. But it has proven, that it improves your endurance. But the important thing is the dose, how much you should take, and whether the acute dose is beneficial or the chronic dose is beneficial. So the research has shown that acute dose may not be that much beneficial. So you have to take, this beetroot juice, for a number of days before your competitions. And you have to, remember one thing: you have to train, you have to practice all these things in your training. Don't go anything, which you haven't done in your training to your competitions. Okay. And the last one is the tart cherry juice. This is also recently, been talked a lot, and many athletes are taking, the tart cherry juice and this, actually it has a lot of advantages. Still a lot of research is required, but it can, reduce the, effect of muscle soreness, especially after exercise. So it helps in the recovery, more in the recovery process. If you're doing a high intensity of trainings and all, then tart juice, is and maybe an important supplement, especially the organic forms. And the last is about the sports foods, like, of course, the supplements and the sports foods in the form of a sports bars or the liquid milk, the sports gels, the sports drinks. So these are widely used and practiced by athletes around the world in different events, maybe marathons, cycling, and other forms of, sports exercise. So these sports foods can be used, but you have to understand one thing. The cost of these sports foods must be taken into account when you're using. So when you're using, how you're using, do you really need it? Is it practical? Is it, so like, for example, if you ask me, when I run marathons, sometimes I take these, but sometimes I don't. But it depends upon, so if many times I'm comfortable with taking mashed potato, I'm comfortable with taking, the banana, but not all athletes are comfortable, because you have to carry that, with you. So sometimes the liquid forms, the gel forms are easy. Athletes can easily carry in a small, does not carry much weight. So it's all depends upon athlete to athlete, sports person to sports person, and depends upon the convenience. So convenience is very important, and how well your gut is trained is also very important. And so the most important thing, as I said before, is never try anything new in your competition. If you try anything new in the competition, of course, it will lead to gastrointestinal distress, and your performance can be impaired because of that. So with this, I would like to conclude my talk here. And thank you so much for giving me a patient hearing. And this is all the end of my presentation. If anybody has any questions, you're most welcome to ask. Over to the moderator for further proceedings.
Mic on பண்ணிக்கோங்க டாக்டர் சாம். Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your excellent presentation. The information about the nutrition, how the nutrition influences the physical and physiological and sports performance also, and how we have to go for the carbohydrate requirements and carbohydrate loading and protein loading, everything explained in a very good manner. Thank you very much, sir. Dear participants, now the time for the interaction with our resource person, Dr. Rakesh sir. Those who want to interact you can unmute yourself and speak. Otherwise, you can type your questions in the chat box also. Now open to forum.
Dr. Rakesh Thomas sir, namaste.
Namaste, namaste,
Yeah.
ma'am. How are you?
So could you please predict about the Tokyo Olympic Marathon, since the temperature is increasing every Olympics, 2 degrees are increasing, probably we predict the degree to be around 40 in the Tokyo Olympics. Do you think that the fatal rate is going to be comparatively higher and the performance is going to reduce, or in what way you make the prediction?
Yes, of course. And this is a very good question. Even like, in my, like my nutrition forum, people have been asking these questions for last couple of weeks, about Tokyo Olympics, especially the heat and for marathon. As I've given you the example in the beginning, like in 1912 stock of marathon, when temperature was 32 degree, almost 50% athlete could not finish. So for the Tokyo Olympics also, of course, athletes are preparing, for that, but the high temperature is going to affect the performance, I don't know exactly in the morning it will start at that time, what will the temperature during that time. But even if the temperature is close to 28, 29, 30 degrees Celsius, it is going to affect the performance. What athletes, many athletes will try to counter it, or the organizers by, supplying, the proper hydration, at regular interval, or maybe like before the race also, they will be following these, hydration strategies. But certainly, it is going to affect the performance, the high temperature, irrespective of, whatever strategies, you apply, definitely will affect.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Rakesh, sir, we have received some of the questions in the chat box. Can I ask on behalf of the participants?
Please, yes, any question.
Okay, sir. One of our senior professor, he asked that, can we go with paleo diet for athletes? What kind of diet to be provided when it comes to weight reduction?
See, we can go with the paleo diet also, and not only paleo, many athletes are even, some athletes exceptional, they are even going with the diets also are going, for even for the weight reduction, many people like, including the athletes also, they go with the keto diets to reduce the weight. But for the weight reduction, actually, it is very difficult to say that you have to use a specific diet, because I personally, as a nutritionist, I cannot say, that paleo or a keto or some other diet. So we always look at the diet in the form, in the context of the energy balance. I always look in the form of energy balance. So we have to balance the energy. So intake and outtake, that's what we give by giving proper, micros and macros to the, athlete. But if we have to reduce the weight, like for example, there are weight categories where like you are playing a judo or different games where, or weightlifting or boxing. So again, there are different games where combat is required. There are games where individual performance like weightlifting is there. So athletes, they reduce the weight before the weighing in, and because that give an added advantage to them. But we have to be very careful when we reduce the weight that you don't lose too much glycogen, during that part. And many athletes, when they reduce the weight, they suffer, their performance, are impaired, if they don't follow judicial way. Another thing here, if we are looking at weight reduction for a normal person, not for athletes, then I always recommend the high protein diet. High protein does not mean that you can go with the 2.5 or 3 grams, but still to the higher side. So high protein diet can help to burn those excess calories, even like during the rest period. So so high protein diet to some extent, rather than cutting on the carbohydrates, I would recommend to go with a high protein diet for a long-term reduction, long-term like program for weight reduction.
Thank you, sir. Another question from our participants. Can you differentiate the protein supplementation and other protein foods?
No, protein supplementation and protein food, basically they are like, used, like in synonym to each other. So whether we say a protein food or protein supplementation, when we call it as a packed food. So they are same, whether you say the protein powders or in the form of the protein bars, or so they are same basically. So, or like supplementation to some extent, when we talk about the whey protein, when we say the BCAA branch chain amino acids or leucine, so that's largely a supplementation. We say when you take the BCAA, to take that, the leucine, leucine amino acids. So that's a supplementation we can say. Otherwise, protein foods, the protein bars, protein shakes and powders, they can be called as the protein foods.
Thank you, sir.
Basically taking that protein, in the form of the, it's a condensed form. So you have to understand that why you want to take the supplement, the protein supplements or protein foods. So you have to understand that. And as I said before, generally, if you look at all the research and if you look at around you, your food, you are getting enough protein from your diet. If you're taking an adequate diet, you will be taking more than 120, 130 grams of protein every day. And that fulfills your requirement if you are 70 kg athlete. So protein supplements are hardly required until unless, as I said, there are different situations which demand some time to supplement, the protein, because when they are, the travel times are there, there's less time between the competition. You cannot eat that much. And different body reacts in different ways. Some people can eat more, some people, they eat less and their stomach is full. So we cannot say in one line, okay, we should take this and we should not take this. So there's so many aspects which has to be understood by, the nutritionist when they recommend such.
Thank you, sir. This is from Ani. Is there any disadvantages of using whey protein powders?
Whey protein. Yeah, very good question, Anish. And I will not say disadvantages, but again, as I said, if you take anything, in excess, especially the proteins also, it can have adverse impact, on your various metabolic functions of your body, especially on your excretory systems, on your kidneys. It can have adverse impact. So you are talking about the whey protein. In some, because as I said, every person react differently, but I have found even many athletes who come to me, I have seen that they are on a whey supplement, and like there may be some skin problems, there may be acne problems, and sometimes they can be, irregular, menses, in female athletes. So whey protein, depending upon how much quantity you are taking, if you're taking in too much quantity, then it can certainly maybe disadvantageous rather than of advantageous. And you must take whey protein only when you want to take protein immediately after the exercise or during the exercise. Otherwise, during your normal day, your normal food, whey is not required. You must rely on taking the protein from the regular food. The wholesome food, the wholesome diet is very important. You not only get protein, you not only get different amino acids, but you also get various other, biomedical compounds for normal growth and function. In whey protein, you get only leucine, remember. So leucine is not only thing what you need. There are 30 amino acids which you need, not just a leucine. So you have to carefully plan when you go for a whey protein.
Thank you, sir. Another participant. You explain about the during the training session, the small amount of carbohydrate can take. Could you explain about which kind of carbohydrate food we can take?
Say again, which like small amount, I didn't get the question. Can you repeat again?
You suggest that during the training season, we can take small amount of carbohydrate.
Okay.
So they are asking about which kind of carbohydrate.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, very good. So I don't know whether you are asking about during the training, means like during the training phase. Okay. So, or maybe the competition also. So either training or a competition, in both during both times, you must go with the high GI food, because you need, like, for example, when I give a diet to a player and she has to train for 3 hours. So I recommend her after 1 hour, I give her, a banana shake. Okay. A banana milk banana shake. So she can get, because that can be quickly absorbed by the body, or we can give in a liquid form, like, electrolytes with the sugar and all, so it can be easily absorbed. Mashed potato is a very good, and mashed potato, I have, personally also I have experienced that if your training is for say 3 hours, you can take mashed potato after 1 hour. So in the next 30-35 minutes, you can get that effect. You can take the banana also, small pieces of banana, not very big, maybe just, one small piece of banana. And like these are all high GI foods which can be taken during the training and also immediately after the training for quick repletion of the glycogen, loss of the glycogen you lost during the training.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answers for this interaction section. On behalf of the YMC College of Physical Education, management, principal, and all the staff members, I am delighted to present the e-certificate, sir.
So 1 minute. Okay. Yeah.
Please accept it. Sir, please.
Please accept this certificate, Dr. Rakesh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I said very humbly, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I would like to share a little bit 2-3 words about Rajesh Tomar. Even Dr. Merlin introduced him very nicely. He's an athlete. He was a champion of 800 meters, middle distance runner at national level. He born and brought of India. Right now, he is working at a foreign university, King Fahd University, Saudi Arabia. Moreover, I think he has evaluated more than 90 PhD theses. Out of 90, majority from Tamil Nadu. From Sports University, from Annamala University, from Alagappa University, majority thesis evaluated from Tamil Nadu only. Thank you so much for your great work, Dr. Rajesh Tomar. Moreover, he is my good friend for the past many years. And I think he had more than 100 deliberations during this lockdown period in India itself. And he has visited more than 30 countries, 30 or 40 countries, I think, from my knowledge. And very good academician. He is not only for physical education, he is an outstanding speaker in public also. He can handle many subjects, not only sports nutrition. And he rightly said that beetroot juice and carrot juice, especially beetroot juice, is very important for especially during strenuous work, and especially during that resistance training period. That is very useful to improve our energy. I was witness. I used to buy 10 to 15 kilo beetroots when I was participating masters athletics meet competitions, and I used to have 500 gram, 500 milli to 700 milli juice. I used to have, especially for beetroot juice when I was participating master sports meet. So he explained very clearly. So I thankful to Dr. Rajesh Tomar for your valuable presence, as well as you clearly explained very well about sports nutrition, especially your area, a reflection on sports nutrition to enhance sports performance. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh Tomar. And moreover, he is the connecting man between India and other many countries regarding academic purpose as well as research, sports research is concerned. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Rajesh Tomar, before giving official auto thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. George Abraham. It's really my pleasure, when you ask me. Of course, you yourself is an, international athlete, and of course, I am also running at this stage, but I didn't run like you are running a competitive, at, professional level. I have shown you. So a person of your stature, who's heading, Institute of Physical Education, that to YMCA, I don't think, YMCA can be more privileged, that you are a right person to handle, to nurture, and especially at this stage, I think you have a long way to go. And not only YMCA, entire, nation will benefit, still you have a long, and I wish you will be reaching more heights, and you are an ideal for many people, around the, for all professional physical educationists, sports persons, I have seen you performing, you run 400 meter, right? So looking at you, many people inspired, and this is what you are doing, by inspiring people. That's what we have to do as a physical education. So thank you so much, Dr. George, for giving me this platform and giving me a chance to interact with you, on this platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will share one more word about our inaugurator, Dr. Devendra. I forgot to inform him. Actually, he is my guru. He is my teacher, Dr. G. Devendran, Professor Dr. G. Devendran. I have learned many things from Dr. Devendran, apart from academic field. Because of them only, I am here in this position. Because of them only, I have achieved something in our life. especially for physical education field. Thank you so much, Professor Ravindran sir, for your valuable presence, and you have inaugurated this international program. Thank you so much, sir. Before giving official vote of thanks. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George Abraham.
Gladly, sir.
And I hope you will do your
Good afternoon. I deemed it as a great pleasure and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of YMCA College of Physical Education, Nandanam. At this hour, let us not forget to praise and thank our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for providing us with this marvelous opportunity to organize and to participate in this international conference, SAP 2021. My profound thanks to our chief guest, Professor Dr. G. Ravindran, Principal of Kovilar Andavar College of Physical Education and Sports Science, for inaugurating the conference. I especially thank the special guest, Professor Archana Chahal, HOD, Department of Physical Education, Central University of Allahabad, for a thought-provoking message. I sincerely thank Dr. Leandy Wiedeberg, Senior Lecturer and Resource Person from Northeast University, South Africa, for an informative and a very interesting speech on competitive intelligence of sports coaches, teams, and athletes. I truly thank Dr. Rakesh Tomar, the resource person from King Fahd University, Saudi Arabia, for his informative speech on sports nutrition and strategies for enhancing the performance. My immense gratitude to Mr. Benjamin Franklin, sir, correspondent and secretary, Rajiv George, administrative and estate manager, and Dr. George Abraham, our principal. Last but not the least, my heartful gratitude to the Board of Management, the faculty members of YMCA College of Physical Education, for their untiring support, and a very big thanks to all the participants of this international conference, SPARP 2021, for making it a great success. Thank you so much, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you once again, all the dignitaries and participants, for your great support to conduct this program in a successful way. Up to Dr. Glady Kribagar.
And note to all the participants, a feedback link has been sent to your WhatsApp group, and it is shared in the chat box also. Please, you can make enter the necessary information, and you will get a e-certificate shortly. So don't be in hurry and worry. Within next 2 to 3 working days, you all will get a e-certificate. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You can make the necessary.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Goodbye.
Thank you, Dr. Leandy. Thank you so much for coming and accepting invitation. Thank you so much. Nice to see you here again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tomar. It's my pleasure. I'm very honored to be part of this. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for staying for so long. Thank you for staying for so long, for listening entire presentation. This is really, very good gesture from you. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Your presentation was very good, very interesting. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Leandy. Thank you.
All right.
Devendra sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Ravindra, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. I could see when I was talking, you were